Open your mind.
And we're back, folks.
Welcome back.
DJ Lou with Mike and featured guest James.
Hey.
What's up? Can we get some clapping for the guy?
Yeah, come on, man.
What, that wasn't clapping.
No.
That was a shock. Yeah.
I deserve it. He's
a celebrity.
That was funny. That was cool, man.
All right, so.
Hey, one thing I just want to say really quickly, because he was mentioning about the 3 houses on the story, about how the first house having the flag. Check this out. Recently, a man was forbidden from flying a U.S. flag on his balcony because it could offend foreign people. That's here in America. How do you guys feel about that?
It's just a little extreme to me, but it reminds me.
I mean, he's not burning the flag. He's showing it. He's proud. You know?
It reminds me of the mosque that they made over at 9/11, and people are like, "You can't build that by 9/11." And I was like, "Dude, I mean, let them build their church. It wasn't them, or let them build their mosque. It wasn't them who knocked down the towers. If anything, it was our government." But anyway. Here's a little something for you, James.
There was a man in a cave.
We learn 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we see and hear, 70% of what we discuss, 80% of what we experience, 95% of what we teach to others.
I believe that's very wise.
Thank you. I made it. I didn't make that, but
William?
I'll take credit for it.
Hey, William.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that we should all kind of remember.
What is life, James? I love doing this to people. What the hell are you talking about, Lil? What are we doing on this planet?
Well, it's like Nietzsche said, you know.
Who's Nietzsche? You keep bringing this guy up.
Nietzsche is a German philosopher.
Cool.
And he's known as an existentialist. In other words, his area of philosophy was, you know, the existence of man. Some people are what they call existential, where they think of, you know, more corporeal things like, you know, what is feelings and what is truth and things like that.
You mean women?
Yeah.
Oh. Can we get a boo?
Now,
but, you know,
minute.
life is suffering.
Come on, you're being negative.
No, it's not negative. It's just the truth of the matter. Life is suffering, and there are no utopias. And you know, there's a very, you know, talking about Nietzsche, who's a German scientist or a German philosopher. You know, there's a very interesting story about the Galapagos Islands. About you know, before World War II, a couple of Germans left Germany because they didn't like Hitler, and they went to the Galapagos Islands, and they were going to, you know, live an isolated life of bliss. And what ended up happening was other people came to the island, and there's actually a documentary out on it, which is really good. It's the Galapagos Affair, The Devil Comes, or Satan Comes to Live, or something like that. You know, you end up with 2 people by themselves, a couple more people hear about it, and they come, and then next thing you know, there's some more people that come, and everybody brings their baggage to this supposed utopia. Well, the end of the story is, you know, people get murdered, people die, people, you know, create wars among each other in this utopia, and believe it or not, there are only 10 people.
Wow. Sounds like a reality TV show.
Yeah, it could be the new utopia, right? But so life is suffering, and really the only meaning to our life is you know, what we bring out of that suffering, what survival we bring out of that suffering.
Wow.
And so that, to me, you know, if we strive to find what we're really good at, and that helps others, that brings meaning to other people's struggles, you know, that's survival. We're helping people survive, and I think really that's the meaning of life on Earth.
Well, I like the whole idea of Indian stuff, because the way the Indians did their thing back in the day was amazing. You know, the way they used the food, they used every part of the body, and they used the bones as tools and stuff. I always respect that, and I think it's a better way to conserve the planet. And like you were saying, oil is destroying the earth and stuff. But I wanted to read this thing from this Indian dude who said, before our white brothers arrived to make us civilized men, we didn't have any kind of prisons. Because of this, we had no delinquents. Without a prison, there can be no delinquents. We had no locks nor keys, and therefore among us there were no thieves. Easily said, though. I mean, we got iPhones now and stuff that people want to steal, and back then you had what, bones? Like you had like arrows and arrow guns, bow and arrow guns. When someone was so poor that he couldn't afford a horse or a tent or a blanket, he would, in that case, receive it all as a gift. We were too uncivilized to give great importance to private property. We didn't know any kind of money, and consequently, I'm tired. The value of a human being was not determined by his wealth. We had no written laws laid down, no lawyers, no politicians. Therefore, we were not able to cheat and swindle one another. We were really in bad shape before the white man arrived, and I don't know how to explain how we were able to manage without these fundamental things that, so they tell us, are so necessary for a civilized society.
That's a good point.
It's a good point, but it's not that I'm trying to take issue with it, but
Hey, you feel the way you feel, man.
yeah, he says we had no politicians, but they had chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they say they had no laws, but I'm sure you couldn't, take something from someone else or murder someone.
If other tribes came into yours, you'd fight them and kill them.
I think he's probably seen it on their scale of how often that happened to compared when after,
Correct,
like the before and
after.
after. I mean, that's one thing I wanted to bring up is I was reading an article that said Native Americans getting final settlement payments, and this is from the government, and this is the largest government settlements in U.S. history. And it's checks ranging from $869 to $10 million were sent on this Monday. It looks like it's going out to Native. Well, it's not too many people. I mean, they compromise less than 1% of the population.
Right.
I mean,
and I think I think it's really about time.
Yeah. Did the Constitution include Native Americans?
No, actually, what's really interesting here is that Indians were basically set aside on land that was separate in country.
Build a casino.
Yeah, they're basically separate in country. And
were they wards of the court?
No, they were their own country.
Their own country.
Their own country.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
but there were some Indians that were ward of the court where they weren't even considered adults.
Well, yeah. There was this idea of trying to assimilate, and children were taken and made, like you said, wards of the court and given to American families, mostly white American families, who trying to assimilate the culture. But the idea of the Native Americans getting paid for these natural resources that the government has been taking for such a very long time, like the oil out of the ground and so forth. And there's been an ongoing battle here. In fact, I thought it was interesting. The national parks used to have pictures up on their websites of Indian lands. One of them was a Crazy Horse Monument. Well, the Indians said, "Hey, you're not paying us a royalty for that. You got to take it down."
Yeah.
And they had to take it down.
Yeah.
So, it was an interesting fight. But this is not only an issue for Indians. This is an issue for all Americans.
Yes, correct.
Because we're seeing oil being taken out of the ground. We're seeing natural gas. We're seeing wood being chopped down. All these natural resources belong to all of us.
Well, wasn't it like Governor Jerry Brown just signed into law about the underground water in California before it was private property? Is that correct? Or it was considered?
Yeah, there was a time, and this is kind of close to me because I have relatives that have a sheep ranch up in Northern California, and they rely on groundwater.
Yeah.
For all of their operations.
I went to Fallon, Nevada, and on the way back I saw these signs from the farmers. I don't know if it was in regards to about the water, and so.
See, here's the thing with the water issue. Again, if the private citizens own the water and the private citizens control the water, how can the government control us? Right?
Exactly.
Correct. So there's the big flushing sound.
That was ridiculously loud.
Yeah. So if you take a look at what's happening, again, Jerry Brown is a Federalist. He believes that not only the federal government, the state government should control everything in everybody's life. And guess what? The state's not controlling groundwater. So we need to control groundwater. So
how do we do that?
Well, first of all, we take a very severe drought situation, and we use that as the impotence. We say, we've got a really bad problem with water, so now we're going to take rights away. Just like, we've got a really bad problem with jets flying into buildings, so we're going to take your rights away. See, and so
we're
this
going to make some laws.
Yeah, so this is how it kind of happens, and I think what's interesting is,
and we laugh, but it's so true.
It's very true.
It's so true.
It's very true. And
there's an agenda.
There's an agenda, and it's to take control of our lives, and taking control of the water is going to ultimately
charge you for breathing.
Yes,
eventually.
that's the next one.
Right?
That's the next one.
No, that's what I read, that they want to charge us for breathing.
Right.
Oxygen.
Well, that's a bit extreme.
Because we exhale carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
I think the water issue that we have in California is a big issue right now.
Huge.
Because of the drought. I think if you were to look at the history of Catalina Island and their water, you will see that really it's all a matter of control. Catalina Island and their
What the
water.
hell is that?
You will see that really it's all a matter of control.
Sorry.
We're getting
I just logged into my live page and it linked me into what's going on right now. People are listening. I was
that's
trying to
pretty
chat
cool.
with
That's
people.
a cool little delay
Oh, wow.
right there.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to throw you off there. I was like, I hear you again. Didn't you just say that? Anyway, sorry.
I just thought I was being omniscient.
Wow.
But yeah, if you look at the history of Catalina, they had to buy water and had to be brought over in barges.
Really?
Yeah,
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, and it was very, very expensive. And Catalina wanted to put in a desalinization plant.
Why hasn't California done that?
Because if they do that, then what happens is the government loses control.
Exactly.
So the 2 desalinization plants that are going in California right now are being done by private corporations.
Kind of like the prisons.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so what happens is right now the water districts are where all the termed out legislatures, where all the political favors, all these guys get thrown into.
Buddies.
We can't even figure out what the budget of Department of Water and Power is. The mayor of LA has had to take DWP to court just to figure out what 2 trust funds are for that equal millions and millions of dollars every year that get put into these trust funds.
Wow.
And this is some kind of a deal that the unions have set up. We don't really know what it is. We could speculate. I could say all kinds of things and probably be right because we don't know. And this is our money, right?
Yeah.
And so here's the thing: if we eliminate government control over water by putting in desalinization plants, we take away what government wants.
Money.
Yeah.
Profits.
And if you look at the Metropolitan Water District, you look at every house, start counting it up. Every single house pays on their property tax.
Yes.
And every business building
Yes.
pays a certain amount, right?
Well, that's what I often tell people. Like, oh, well, this doesn't affect me. Politics. Because people go on rants like, oh, why are you so consumed by politics? I'm like, because we have to. Because it affects our daily life. When you go buy gas, you're paying tax. When you buy that soda, you're paying tax. When you buy those shoes, you're paying tax. Everything you buy is tax.
Yeah.
And that's what these people don't. They kind of like don't see it as one. It's kind of weird to me in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, they don't. And that's really
That's our money.
Right.
Essentially.
Right. And yeah, it's our money. It's basically our resources. And when you think about desalinization, it's not just water. One of the other byproducts that you get from desalinization is salt. And other than water, the next most important thing that we have to live is salt. In fact, there are wars fought over salt.
Why so?
Well, the human body needs that salt to create chemical reactions in order for things to work.
Oh, wow. I see. Wow, I wasn't aware of that.
So you got to have water,
and salt.
Without water, and salt, you can live a lot longer without water and salt than you can with food. So, and there were wars that were fought in Russia in the 1500s and 1700s. There were salt wars fought because they were denying access. So think about this: we create desalinization plants. We get water, but we also get salt. Well, what happens to the salt miners in the United States now? They're out of business. Right, so they're saying, "Oh, we don't want desalinization plants," right? So you got to look at the idea of winners and losers, But the idea really should be, what's best for the society. And there might be some losers, there might be some winners, but
pass the salt.
Pass the salt. Right. Of course, I always like to say when I'm at work, when I get done with my breaks and at lunch, I always tell people, "Well, I'm headed back to the salt mine."
They're like, "What the hell is he talking about?"
Yeah, people would look at me funny, but yeah, salt is real important.
I think more importantly is water. And my boy Robert Rivera, who's listening right now, Californians are not aware of the water shortage. He says,
"Yeah, they're not." I'm the type of person where if you're brushing your teeth, turn off the water. I hate my biggest pet peeve is running faucet when you're not using the water or you're soaping up your dishes.
Yeah.
But an interesting fact I wanted to touch on also that I read that I was pretty taken aback by was it says nearly 2/3 of Americans can't name the 3 branches of government.
That's pretty sad.
That's pretty sad.
That's
pretty damn sad. In a democracy that, where the Constitution is so vital and so important, people can't even name the three branches of government. That is pretty sad.
That is sad.
Crazy. You know, I always read these.
Right now?
Is it multiple choice?
Is it their fault though? Like, what are the schools teaching us right now? What about Common Core?
Well, that's what I wanted to go into. Was like, why is it so that they can't name them? What is the problem behind? And it goes into the schooling. The Common Core. I'll get into that a little bit.
2 is 5.
Yeah.
What do you think about Common Core, James?
I just look back at it. When I was in school, they were going to start this thing called New Math. It was going to be a new way to teach us. And at the time, everybody was all excited about it. And I look back at it and I think, wow, 2 plus 2 has been 4 for I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of years.
Everything's got to change.
So, the idea of new math didn't really make sense to me. And then, of course, we came along New English and New History. And my thought is that the more you know, the less people can control you.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I believe that.
Look who controls education, government, and look who wants to control us. So why should we make education good?
Yeah, I mean, the way I've been preaching is that we're pumping out drones, little robot zombies, I mean, and then what's sad is that, the McDonald's jobs, the Walmart jobs, the part-time jobs that were for all the students. I mean, these are the third house, these are people's extra jobs just to try to put food on the table.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of problems here, and all the jobs, they're going overseas, and all these corporations. My main beef with the corporation, I don't care. Okay, make your money, but fucking pay your taxes. Like, don't be putting in offshore banks. Don't go to Swiss. Why are you offshore? And that goes again. They're from Europe, but they make a little company out here in America, and they get away with it. And again, it goes into the globalization of America. But everybody needs to pay their fair share. Most wealthy people do not pay taxes. Is that correct?
That's correct. And
Why so?
And I have to say this. Well, because
special privileges.
Yeah,
special privileges.
Big government. Yeah, big government needs big business, and we are becoming a society of privilege rather than laws. And it's not just when you say privilege, money. I look at the ADA, the American Disabilities Act. I have to deal with it every day in my job. And the idea was to make it so that it was equal for people with disabilities to have the same access as people without disabilities. Well, now it has become where people with disabilities have greater access. Mm-hmm. They have privilege. And one of the things that really upsets me is when I hear people like Warren Buffett talking about, well, my secretary pays more taxes than I do. And, it's not because there's a lower tax rate for him. It's because for the last 10 years, every time the IRS tries to collect taxes from you, your lawyer's tied up in court. This is a known fact. He hasn't paid 10 taxes in 10 years because he hasn't let the IRS collect. He sues the government and says, you don't have the right to this.
Is there a law that says we have to pay tax?
Yes, there's a law. It says that you can avoid taxes, but you cannot evade them. And so what Buffett does, with his Hackshire,
his smart individuals, his sharks,
he is avoiding. Eventually, he will die, and there will be a big tax bill due. But
Too late.
But he's still fairly modest. I mean, he still lives in the same house. He's not so like these rappers are bling bling. Like, I mean, a lot of these guys.
He's got to report that on his tax form.
right.
Because like Bill Gates, he still like cuts his own hair and things like that.
Yeah.
So some of these guys are pretty modest. I mean, compared to other people that flaunt like they have the money and they really don't. But I just feel like these corporations have too much control. Warren Buffett could go and send out a tweet and make or break a company, I believe, right?
Yes,
is that correct?
True. Yes,
that's a lot of power in the day and age of social media, where these things right here, they rule the world. And it's pretty crazy to me that they have so much influence and so much power. I mean,
and then we have nothing, like Willy Wonka said.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Is that at the courts?
That's the judge right there.
Denied.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So good stuff, guys. A lot of good stuff we're talking about.
Yeah. One thing back into the Constitution. Does it say anything about the military as having to enlist or serve your country? Is there anything in there?
Well,
because it seems like people don't want to go to war. I mean, we got to hire companies like Blackwater. Back with 9/11, and the reason I bring that up is because recently the CEO, I think his name is like Eric Prince or something like that.
Yeah,
but is that his name? Yeah. I know they changed their name. I think it's like XE or something like that. But he was saying that if they were to take over, they would take out ISIS, IS. And I was looking at how much money they made. They made at their highest point, they made over 200 million.
Mm-hmm.
And Halliburton is another company that made billions. And Dick Cheney was the CEO at one point in time. He was the vice president. So it's a little bit deeper, a little bit more complex. Some people say, "Oh, you're being a conspiracist," but like the way I see it is like he looked out for his friends. Hey, you know what? I'm going to go in here and make you some money and get some kickbacks going. I mean, there's a lot of money. Money corrupts. That's why I like being. I'm not going to say I'm broke and poor. It's just I have my priorities straight, but I don't feel like I need to have a certain car or certain thing. But certain people do feel that, and it's just crazy that some people are just making billions and we're making cents per hour compared to some of these people,
Yeah, I totally agree. And
$1 million bonuses.
Yeah. And something I've always found interesting is you look at like say sports players or actors and actresses, they make a lot of money too. And in fact, there are 20 actresses in Hollywood that have made more money than the top 20 executives in the United States. So think about that. Yeah.
That's
so
the media.
Yeah. Reese Witherspoon made more money than the president of Disney, the Walt Disney Corporation.
And they don't like paying taxes, kind of like Wesley Snipes.
Right. They don't like paying taxes, and they work out all kinds of deals to avoid, but then they'll go up to Congress and tell, Congress how everybody has to pay their fair share. But one thing that I've always found interesting is that people who, act like they have money really don't.
Yeah.
The people that have money don't act like they do. And you look at these sports stars, like I said, these movie stars, they've got a lot of money. But think about how much money the people have that are signing their paychecks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's deep.
And so,
power.
And power. Yeah.
What about Donald Sterling? Dude, freaking racist dude gets, he gets paid out for being a racist, which is cool. He used his First Amendment, right? His first...
well, he was secretly recorded again, so I mean that was kind of invasive.
What do you think about that, James? Do you think that was legitimate?
Well, he belonged to a private organization, which was the NBA. The NBA is a private organization,
correct?
And if you choose to belong to a private organization,
you must follow our policy.
And that's the difference,
especially in a league where African Americans, compose most of the teams. I mean, come on now.
I think what happens is people confuse the idea behind private and public.
Yes.
And he belonged to a private corporation.
Well, again, I mean, club. This is a somebody of great wealth. Again, they're privileged. They're on a different level. They expect people to bow down to them. Kind of like you always hear about these divas when they go on tour, like they want a certain type of water. It's like they think they're gods in a way. But one thing I wanted to bring up was, there's a lot of violence in the NBA and NFL. But here's some things that I saw on a post that I thought was pretty interesting because it says NBA versus NFL. 36 have been accused of spousal abuse. 7 have been arrested for fraud. 19 have been accused of writing bad checks. 117 have directly or indirectly bankrupted at least 2 businesses.
Wow.
3 have done time for assault. 71 cannot get a credit card due to bad credit. 14 have been arrested on drug-related charges. 8 have been arrested of shoplifting. 21 currently are defendants in lawsuits. And 84 have been arrested for drunk driving. This is Congress.
Wow.
It's not the NBA or NFL.
It's Congress.
It's Congress.
Wow.
Yeah, I was reading that. I was like, oh, that's going to be the NFL. No, that was Congress. But that just goes to show the standards that are set in this country. That's what we're, if we're looking up to people that are doing that, they get a little slap on the hand.
Yeah.
I mean,
know
what I mean? And it goes hand in hand, with all the media, the alcohol, during every sport. Brought to you by Bud Light, or it goes hand in hand with it. And people are treating their teams like a gang, and then you're wearing Dodgers or wearing Giants, and we're gonna kill you, and people are getting killed over this stuff. So it's a huge, complex problem. I would say, it's just very huge.
To simplify it, it's a problem.
It's just a problem.
A problem that we can't handle. It appears. A lot of things to do, man. What are we gonna do in a short lifespan that we have? Limited access.
What would George Washington do? That's what I ask.
Well, in the name of George Washington, I'd like to say he would grab his muffled gun and he'd blast. But what do you think about President Obama? Do you think he's actually going to make a change before he exits out and Hillary Clinton comes in?
His pal.
His tag team partner. Do you have any hard feelings for that guy?
For Obama?
Yeah.
No, I just
NDAA Act, while we were New Year's Eve, he passed that, and while we were all getting drunk, he was writing a bill that we weren't going to see till the next day, which we were hung over. The NDAA is basically National Defense Authorization Act, which allows the president, if he wants, which he said he'll never do, it's just in writing, just in case, he can send Americans to Guantanamo and have us tortured.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's pretty amazing to me. It's just incredible that it is really sliding as far as it is. I tell my wife all the time, I'm glad I don't live forever. 'Cause I'm just looking back at, the half a century here of my life, thinking it is such a different world.
Right.
It definitely is.
It's such a different world.
It's because we're in the future if you look at it, because back in the 80s it was about the going to the moon, and it was about the future car flying in the air. Now we're actually here with this technology that's amazing. I mean, if you're looking at what I'm doing alone, I mean, I have my own channel. I'm a regular dude who works a 9 to 5, doesn't make squat. I have my own channel on YouTube, and someone's calling me. And I'm able to broadcast around the whole world right now. People in Egypt could watch me.
Yeah,
People in
it's amazing.
Jamaica could watch. Anywhere around the world. All they got to do is add me on Facebook. The link's there. They can watch the video on YouTube. They can listen to us live. They can call in right now if they want.
Yeah.
It's amazing, the
It is
technology.
amazing.
And they're trying to take this away, man, or they're trying to regulate it.
Yeah.
The
in a
internet,
way,
that
you
is.
know?
They don't like you, they can ban you for life.
Yeah, well,
Right.
there's constant attempts, at trying to block them. What was it, SOPA or I forget.
PIPA and SOPA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just don't stop, and I mean, I don't know. Some people they take this stuff for granted. They really do, and it's unfortunate because I always used to listen to my parents, my grandparents. Oh, back in the day, and now I'm catching myself like, well, back in my, I'm looking at these little kids like, oh, you little bastard, like
Back in my day.
And we're not that old, but it's like once you hit the 30s, you're just kind of like, a little bit more settled down. You kind of see the world in a different perspective,
Yeah, you do.
But yeah,
Wait
it's
till you hit
beautiful.
50. You're seeing another. And then, of course, them 70-year-olds, they're like, got another idea.
This is what my grandpa tells me.
You stupid son of a bitch!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I think back, my dad used to come and yell at us kids, and call us, stupid sons of bitches for getting on the phone and getting on a toll line or toll call, and when the phone bill got to be like $20 a month, I mean that was like outrageous.
Right.
And
Sounds like nothing today, but back then, like the minimum wage was like $2 or $3, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk about economics back then too, but
Break it down.
Yeah. But now, I hear people have $200 a month cell phone bills.
Yeah,
for the
like it's
family.
normal.
It's
700.
normal.
I've heard of 700.
And
yeah,
it's like
it's crazy. You
incredible.
would think the rates, like me personally, you would think the rates would be so cheap, dirt cheap,
Yeah.
for these telephone companies, but it's not, and that's the trade-off, because I talk to my uncle constantly. I'm like, whoa, all these people pay this amount of money and we give this information willingly and free to all these corporations to use.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was with my wife the other day. We're on the laptop and she was on a website, and then she goes on her Facebook, and the advertisement on Facebook was of the previous website. And I told her, I'm like, yeah, they're tracking you. They know you. They know everything about you. And it's just that's a scary thought in a certain way. I mean, I like to look at things in all perspectives, but sometimes where's the line? Where's the limit? Where I'm paying this company, it should be private. You shouldn't be selling my information. Like that.
Right.
What the heck's going on here? And we're paying these companies. The other day, I went for the iPhone 6. My wife bought one. We went to the actual store. AT&T servers were down, so we couldn't get our phone.
Yeah.
And that was such BS. And they were trying to say, yeah, you could pay full price and get it. I was like, I'm not paying full price. And then I got really angry, and I was showing them the email. I was like, where does it state that? Where's the asterisk? Where does it say this information? I'm like, give me your manager. And I was just like, come on, man. But I got over it. I was like, we'll come back tomorrow. There's worse things going on in the world than me not being able to get an iPhone. I understand. But I was upset at that point in time,
Were
because
you in the line for that iPhone 6? I could have sworn I saw you.
my wife was, man. Hey, happy wife, happy life.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's just so funny to me. But I got over it. But there's some people that will throw a fit. Like they need to have it right now. It's like their drug. But I could wait. I'm good.
It is
on that.
addicting. I gotta say, I love these phones and this technology.
Well, we were just talking about technology. We want the latest thing. We want the updates. I remember, back in the day when a camera came out, a camcorder, you had to have it, and it's just like nowadays you have everything in the palm of your hand, and it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing stuff.
So what do you see in the future, James? Hologram people walking around?
Oh yeah, I do. And what's interesting is that when I got into IT work, it was very, very new. There was no college degrees you could get. I mean, it was in
ITT Tech.
Yeah. Basically, companies had to give you certifications, like you got Microsoft certified or Cisco or whatever, because Novell, which I don't even know is around anymore, but. There was a lot of hope as to what would happen with this technology. And in the last 30 years, we've seen, or at least I've seen, maybe 10% of what really the society needs out of technology. And 90% is what it wants. And maybe as time goes on, we'll get more towards what society needs, and there's some hope there.
How wasteful are we with these new phones coming out every 6 months?
Extremely wasteful. Extremely wasteful.
It's all about profit.
And it ties again in with all the minerals that were in the troves of the mountains and minerals in Afghanistan. Like, it goes hand in hand with all these things, with the natural resources that people are not seeing, and they're saying that I'm crazy. But they have 90% of the opium, trillions of dollars worth of minerals that these cell phones need, the chips. All that stuff. So I mean, it's just it's really crazy. It's all how it's all interlaced. But one thing I wanted to touch on was 3D printing. Because 3D printing is awesome. I can't wait to get a printer personally. Like because there was this article I read where this dad built a prosthetic hand for his child with a 3D printer, which is awesome. I think SpaceX just sent, because now they got some sort of thing going on with NASA where they're going to the International Space Station. Just recently they launched some goodies, and in there was a 3D printer. Yeah. So that's pretty cool, because they're going to be able to be in space now, and if something goes wrong, they can make a custom part, and I'm sure they have all the blueprints on a thumb drive or some sort of thing. But that's where technology is going. I wanted to touch on space because the Constitution covers space and everything else and exploration. Like, do we have the same rights in space? Do we have the same rights in other things?
Interesting point.
It just goes off into so many things. We're like, I mean, I like to think that way. And some people are like, oh, no, people are going to live in space. How do you know? Right. Like, is it going to be different? It's kind of like that movie, Elysium. I forget it's with, was it Matt Damon? I forget. But we're pretty much, the planet's still here, but the elite live on, in like an international space station type thing, and they have illegals trying to go, and space rockets going to blow them up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
crazy. It's interesting.
It is. It's very interesting thoughts, and I think society. That's what's so great about the Constitution, is that we can change it. Yeah. There can be changes, and when there's enough pressure, when there's enough need to change, we can make it. I think one of the fascinating things about space is that it'll get us back to the basics of life. In other words, when people came to the New World, it was very dangerous.
Correct.
It took a lot of time, very dangerous. A lot of people, entire societies disappeared. To Jamestown. What happened to Jamestown? Nobody knows. It just disappeared, right?
On the back of a quarter now.
Yeah.
Hey, well, let's take a quick call. Ava?
Nice.
Ava, is that you?
Yeah.
Or is it Eva?
Eva.
Eva, I'm sorry. I don't want to disrespect you like that. Go ahead and stalk me when you see me. How you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for calling in. Did you have a question for James about the Constitution?
Actually, I'm just kind of like eavesdropping, just listening to you guys' show.
Do you work for the government?
Not you.
Yeah, not so much.
No, her posts are mostly, I am not for President Obama. He is not my president.
He's not. Deja vu, he's not my president either.
That's right. How you feeling today?
I'm okay. How's everybody doing on your end?
They're drunk.
We're doing good. Good morning.
No, they're good.
Robert will be calling in too. He had to go take care of his child.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, tell him to give me a call. But we kind of trying to get the flow of the conversation going. What do you want to talk about?
I'll talk about anything.
How do you feel about Obama representing your Constitution?
Representing my Constitution?
Correct.
Yeah, he doesn't do that.
Yeah, are these
constitutional attorney? Yeah, bullshit.
Are these airstrikes legal?
I am thoroughly convinced he was created in a test tube.
Wow.
Genetically modified president.
Exactly.
You know, they're talking about making modified soldiers that could go without days without eating or sleeping. I mean, so this is it's not far fetched.
Oh no, it's not. In fact, I believe that they're already in the works. Well, they already have them.
It's possible.
It's transhumanism.
Well, I know my work makes me go for days without, eating or drinking or sleeping, with double shifts. So maybe I'm already there. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard recently they're going to start making little babies that like are in test tubes so that they could stop the animal testing, and like that's a scientific thing that everybody's pushing for. But then again, it's like playing God. So like, how do you guys feel about that? If they're making little babies in test tubes to try something that could possibly, eradicate cancer.
I believe they're doing it already. They're not telling us.
So they're doing okay. So they're going.
And think about countries like China who don't give a damn about rules. They got slave labor going on over there. They don't care about.
And they got the money too, right?
It's a race for the top, man. Who's the best country? And when we're making they're making all the products for us, they're winning.
Well, Alibaba, they just went recently.
IPO.
The initial public offering, is the biggest in U.S. history, and this is a Chinese company.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're taking over.
Yeah.
Well, if we're just hearing about this shit, it's already been in the progress for at least 25 years or more.
Correct. But most people say that it's a lie. What do you tell those people?
Why do you say that, Eva? What makes you think that?
History.
Whoa.
Come on.
You got a point.
And, they hide everything in plain sight. They're forever slapping it right in our faces, and we're so dumbed down that we don't see it.
Right. Like George Orwell said in his book, it's not hard to tame the masses when you give them alcohol and sports, teams.
Exactly. Yeah, go. The Bears.
Yeah. What do you think about that, James? Do you think we're dumbed down as a society? Do you think there's
the water.
Oh, yeah.
Like fluoride in our water and the GMOs in our food that makes us lazy and incompetent to try to pick up a book and try to start reading and stuff? I mean, where do you get the fire from to want to learn? Like, what gave you the inspiration to want to start,
Well, I'm kind of a dinosaur in that, I didn't have...
Technology.
I didn't. It wasn't easy. I mean, the people who don't read books.
You went to a library?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where imagination is going to come in the future, because with a book, you have to make everything up in your mind. Now if you want to see it, you just go to YouTube. Or you just you watch some show on television.
Well, they say there are some people that are visual people. I feel like I'm that way. I try reading a book, like I can read a couple pages, I just start drifting off. My eyeballs get tired. So like when I'm watching a documentary. I'm watching something that's enlightening. I just watched the Cesar Chavez movie that just came out recently, and I got really inspired of what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
I also watched the James Brown movie, that one that just came out. Get on up.
Yeah.
Get on up. Get on up. What about you, Eva? Do you, Eva? I keep saying her name wrong. Do you, are you up with the times, or are you just like a dinosaur as well?
I will admit that I have read more in the past 2 years than I probably did while going through school.
Oh, yeah, I was an idiot. I was getting Fs. I was wanting to be the class clown. I had no ambitions to go to college. I said, I'm not going to college. That's stupid. And I almost ended up a victim of the society and the system, which we call prison. I almost ended up a victim of that. And thank God I did go to college. And I was able to open some doors in my brain because that was the only way for me to actually have a chance of survival and understand that people were out there to lock me up for making silly mistakes. It's on your record. Once you make a mistake, it's on document. You are that forever until you can get it expunged, and that's even harder to get removed.
And if you're a felon, you can't vote. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that actually, I wanted to bring up that because it kind of goes hand in hand with prison. Like it kind of benefits the politicians. If you go to prison, you're a felon. Guess what? Your right to vote is revoked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But honestly, do you believe that your vote even counts?
That's a good point. That's a very good point that I try bringing up because it seems like it doesn't matter because of the Electoral College. They want to make you believe it does matter. I honestly, in my heart, I want to believe that it does matter, but it starts on a lower scale with your your what's it called, the city councils and all
Yeah.
that. And obviously, you know, it starts locally before you could act globally.
No,
but
it doesn't matter who votes; it's who counts the votes.
that's a good one. I like that one.
This is true.
True.
Yeah,
This
very
is
true.
true.
Also,
It's very true.
They're not elected; they're selected. I mean, come on. Jerry Brown is the governor of California. What the fuck?
Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor. I used to say that when I would be back. You
Head
know?
to the chopper.
Yeah.
James, who did you vote for your mayor?
Mayor of Tustin?
Yeah. Do you even know who he is? Because
No.
I don't know who my.
I don't. Here's the problem.
That's the root of the problem is
There's
that
no
we don't even
Yeah.
we
There's
don't
no
even know
connection.
on
Yeah.
a local basis of who's running the show. So we do know who's running the show as a whole country, the president, but he's got the best Secret Service to protect him. He's got the best.
Somebody just got in the White House. I'm going to rebuttal that. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true. That couple that got in, right? Is that what you're talking
No,
about?
this guy recently just jumped the fence and got through with a
A
knife. He
veteran,
was actually
yeah.
a veteran. His name was like Gonzalez or something.
with a
like that.
knife.
So here's the thing for me. I feel paralyzed because I don't want to vote someone in that's going to be totally wrong, but yet I don't know anything about the people that I'm voting for locally.
They don't even live in the cities. They
Yeah.
claim
I mean,
they do.
Yeah, and judges, you know, they don't even tell you when you're voting for a judge whether they're, you know, what their slant is politically, whether it's Republican or Democrat or Libertarian, and so
They're appointed by the president.
you really can't, you know. For me, for local issues, there's really no information. You know, you're voting people into water districts, you're voting people into college boards, you know, for community college, and you're saying, well, who are these people?
Yeah, exactly. Who are they?
Yeah, who
Ain't
are
that
they?
a trip?
Yeah.
Ain't that a trip?
Well, I believe that you have to follow the money trail. If you are really that concerned of what is going on, exactly, follow the money trail.
Yeah, and it's
It
very
leads you
difficult
to the
sometimes.
evil.
Yeah.
Well, with the world of technology, you know, we have the internet at our disposal. We can find anything and everything. And yes, a lot of it can be bullshit on here.
Correct.
But you know, it's the domino effect.
You got a great point there.
I was a delegate for Ron Paul, and I'm convinced, still to this day, Ron Paul is our president. I mean, on paper, if we would have hand counted ballots, Ron Paul would have been in there. I was living in Las Vegas at the time because I just moved from Colorado to Las Vegas, and Ron Paul wasn't on the ballot. There was no place to write him in or anything. It totally, completely rigged.
Wow, that's crazy.
What kind of election is that? And then we only have two people to pick from?
Exactly.
That's so complete bullshit.
Yeah, Jesse Ventura made a good
Exactly.
point. He said when you go to the ballot to vote, you go to fill out whoever, and you see the names already, and it already tells you the Democrat, Republican, and you don't know anything about them or what they believe. Just because it says Democrat, people vote Democrat. Just because
Yeah.
it says Republican, they vote Republican. Instead of actually reviewing the person, he made a proposal saying on the ballot they should just put the name, and you have to do research on that specific person to know what they're about, not just they're Democrat or Republican, because
Yeah.
to me it's the same shit.
Yeah, but it goes back with education too, you know, and I mean people working two jobs just to get by, you know, so a lot of people don't have time to do
Yeah.
all that research, and
Who was
you know,
it?
they're dealing with their kids, they're dealing with all sorts of other things where they
My good buddy Brian, rest in peace, he was the one that said, why don't we do it online? We trust money online. We can shuffle money around with our
Bitcoin.
credit cards. Yeah. Why not be able to vote? It's just as safe.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no, but computers can get hacked.
Correct.
I don't do anything online.
Good point.
But we have to break free from our parents and our grandparents' politics. Well, you know, in all actuality, there is no Republican Party, there is no Democratic Party, there is no right side, there is no left side. They're
That's all media garbage.
There's only one agenda, and each party plays a role.
Wow.
And it's the same role.
But do you believe that it was hijacked, or do you believe that it was always set this way? It's evolved, like what? I mean, because obviously, like I mean, we live in America. I love my country. You know, I might not like the people in charge, but I love my country. I love my freedoms that I do have. But did it get hijacked along the way, kind of like religion? That's what I think. What do you believe? Like, what happened? What went wrong?
What went wrong is that I believe that people have put too much faith into the politicians.
That's true.
And as far as, I mean, back in the day when we had paper ballots, I believe that it was a little bit more honest. But as I said, these people aren't elected; they're selected.
Yeah, that goes hand in hand with George W. Bush. I mean, his brother was a governor of Florida, Jeb Bush, when that whole thing went down with Al Gore, and he ended up taking Florida. So, yeah, it seems like
conflict of interest.
It seems like it's all bloodlines.
Oh no, definitely it is.
Bloodlines, reptilians. Do you think there's lizard people out there, James? Cold-blooded men that are under the ground, about 2 foot tall.
I believe there are cold-blooded men, and I believe that the elections in America are all about rules and regulations to keep people out or to get people in. I've always been amazed. You hear about free trade agreements, right? Mm-hmm. And yet they slam down this book with 500 pages of laws, and it's supposed to be free trade
restrictions,
or election campaign cleanup. Where you have these books of laws that anybody can figure out some kind of a loophole in. And so it's there are cold-hearted people out there that want to control, and we have to constantly be vigilant to that. There's no system that's going to work well. Paper, electronic. Anything, but if we're vigilant and we look for those areas where there's problems, I have to say this about you mentioned the election with Gore and Bush in Florida, and I have to say this, it looked like it was a pretty screwy deal down there, okay, but in the end, what happened was the rules that were put in place before the election was held were the rules that were followed. And in that sense, you can't say that it was wrong. If there are rules that are in place before something happens, and that's the way the game is played, it's just like if you were to watch a football game and all of a sudden the ref said, you know what, we're going to change the rule. You're going to say foul.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, Al Gore is he's still buddies with them, just like Kerry is out representing in the Middle East, and they're all buddies behind closed doors. That's what I've been saying. They're all just a big group of these people. People in Congress make more money than us, the average citizen. How do they understand our needs? How I just what I'm saying? Like
they're in ivory towers. They're in ivory towers. And I think the rules. The rule of law. We can get back to the Constitution. It's the ultimate rule of law here, but there's an analogy that I like to use, and I know maybe this is kind of off base here, but if you look at the streets here in America in your local city and town, if the traffic cops stopped writing tickets tomorrow, didn't tell anybody about it, they just stopped writing traffic tickets, at first people would kind of think, wow, I'm speeding, I'm not getting a ticket, I'm running this light. Eventually what happens is a few people figure it out, a few people take advantage of it. Next thing you know, you have a lot of people taking advantage of it, and the streets just stop working.
I think that's called welfare.
Well, yeah. it just gets broken. The whole system gets broken. And it's all because the laws aren't enforced. And that's kind of what we have with our elections. The election laws are not enforced. It's the same problem we have with immigration. They're not enforced. The laws are not enforced. It's the same thing with business. The tax laws are not enforced.
And where are most of these presidents coming out of? I mean, they're coming out of what? Yale, Harvard, Harvard. Skull and Bones, or what is it?
They're all lawyers. They're all highly,
educated.
Clubbed up.
I mean, sometimes when Obama speaks, sometimes I'm just taken back. I'm like, wow, he's pretty good at speaking. He's a great public speaker. I'm going to give him that. But at the same time, it's like
that's what he gets paid for.
Yeah, that's what he is. He's kind of like who was it? Immortal Techniques has his verse where he's like, the snipers pointed on the president so he could comply. Pretty much is what he's saying, and that kind of makes sense too. Where like, I mean, these guys are being told what to do, and I mean, how much information do they really have? And again, the president, when I was in school, what I learned was the president is the one in charge of the army, pretty much, right?
Yes, he's commander-in-chief.
And that's what it is. And people don't understand what a president actually does, I think, sometimes.
Right, they don't.
They don't even, they can't even name the branches of government. They don't even understand what a president does. I honestly believe.
And there's so much historical reshaping. And, you know, this is my opinion. This is my personal opinion. But I think the greatest president of the 20th century was President Eisenhower.
Oh, you're going to say Reagan.
President Eisenhower. There are some things about President Eisenhower that a lot of people don't understand. And he was the father of civil rights. He began civil rights in America.
He was also against the military industrial complex,
yes,
right?
Military-industrial complex.
I remember that speech he gave.
Yes.
Yeah, very great speech.
And you know, George Washington said the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, as far as military and so forth. And
well, my favorite president's the one that said we should have a Second Amendment. I don't know what it was. I think it was Adams. Somebody did, but they made a perfect explanation of, you know, no matter what, people are supposed to have guns, and you cannot take that away from them. That's not a right. I mean, that's not a privilege. That's a right. You're not going to erase that.
Right. And so what we see is most people, when you ask who's the father of civil, you know, who was the president for civil rights, they'll say Kennedy.
Yeah.
But Eisenhower desegregated the military. In fact, the Tuskegee Airmen would not have existed. Those are Army airmen, would not have existed without Eisenhower.
So you're saying the military was segregated? They had the black brigades and the white brigades?
Well, it was.
Yeah?
It was segregated. And there were...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was segregated. And there was this idea that, you know, blacks can't do the same thing as whites.
Yeah.
And Eisenhower said no. He said they can do the same thing. And he started to desegregate the military. And part of that was he trained, you know, blacks to be airmen.
Awesome.
in the Army Air Corps. And that was where the Tuskegee Airmen came from. And, you know, he sent out the National Guard. He said, look, you know, there's certain things that the federal government should do, and that's that, you know, it's to protect the quality of law among all citizens. So when the states said no, you know, blacks can't go to high school, he sent out the National Guard to Little Rock, Arkansas, and, you know, made a path for them to go to school. Now,
was it an overreaction to send the National Guard to those riots in Ferguson, do you think?
No, I don't. I think that this is what is supposed to be happening.
Okay.
You know, because they're supposed to protect the rights of everyone. That's the idea behind it. And
Correct.
now it can be used in the wrong manner, but, you know, really that's what the idea behind the National Guard. That's what the idea is behind bearing arms, and that's the idea behind the well-regulated militia.
We have a big dysfunction with the society, though, when people are standing in line for Jordans or iPhones all damn day. And, you know, people are rioting, and they're so against the police, they're so angry, yet, you know, they haven't even finished high school. Like, they're behind. It's like we have to reshape our people, and it starts with television, and it starts with music, and it starts with our teachers, obviously. But when you have an influence that's so powerful, these phones, for example, you have the touch of a button, and you can go all around the world, see people get beheaded, see people that are filthy rich, these sweet 16s. It's just out of hand. Like, there's so much technology that we're using that we can see the wrong in the world, but somewhere down the road someone said this is okay and acceptable, and that's we have to separate those. We have to understand what's wrong, and who's to decide that, who's to judge that. You know, people on TMZ, they fought for their freedom to speak the way they want on television, and now they're polluting the minds of millions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who's to say they're wrong or right? Well, I say they're wrong, but what do you take out God out of schools, you take out God out of the courts, you take God out of everything.
A pledge of allegiance. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, this guy not being able to put his American flag.
Are you a faithful guy, James?
Yes, I am.
What is your religion?
Well, actually, believe it or not, I was raised in the Lutheran Church.
Catholic?
Actually, the Lutherans left the Catholics.
Ah.
In fact, it was the third split of the Christian church. The first was the Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, and then the Lutherans left the Roman Catholic. But here's the thing. You know, this is what I say about religion. I don't remember seeing Christ going to Rome and trying to get laws passed to either promote or to prevent. You know, I think it's an individual thing, you know, and I have no problem saying that I am, but, you know, I am not going to tell anybody that they can't practice their religion. I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm going to pass laws to prevent you from practicing your religion or only allowing me to practice mine.
What about gay marriage?
Well, that's a very interesting point. I mean, I think we argue about words. I believe from a religious point of view that, marriage really means the union of two people. And so in order to have that union, what you're talking about is procreation. You
Correct.
have half of one, half of another. Now we can argue about the words, marriage all you want, but, gays cannot marry because they cannot procreate. Now, does that mean we deny them civil rights? Does that mean we don't give them the ability to have a union where they can go visit dying loved ones in the hospital or pass property on or, adopt children and raise children? No, I don't believe that. But from the historical sense of the word marriage, we've kind of lost what that means.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. A lot of people argue that. They're like, well, you have to be able to procreate.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with it. I was raised Catholic, and there's certain things like I'm not going to say I don't agree with everything that I've been taught. I mean, there's a lot of great things. That's why I am the person I am and the drive I have.
Yeah.
You definitely have to learn right from wrong. Like
Right.
That's definitely what I feel religion comes down to. Is it teaches you the foundation, right from wrong. You fear the devil.
Yeah.
And sometimes you even fear God.
You fear God.
And the way I look at it is metaphorically. Like
Yeah.
you just got to apply it. And me personally, I don't try to push my religious views on anybody or my political views. I just like learning. I like to ask questions and try to see where people come from. But
that's
good answers.
The definition of marriage, the relationship that exists between a husband and a wife. It doesn't say male or female. It says a husband or a wife. But this is just a definition. This could be from any damn dictionary.
Yeah.
But no, I hear what you're saying. I think you're upset about the word itself, marriage, because it's a sacred word for the church.
Right. It's a sacred word for the church, and it's really not. It's not something that I argue with people about as far as word definitions because it's tomato.
So couldn't we call it gayrage? Gayrage. How about that?
I think it's a civil union. I think what happens is that.
Why does the government butt their nose into people getting married anyway?
Because here's the thing. For a man and a woman to be married, the government can't do anything or doesn't grant us that ability. We have that innately. We are born with the ability as a man and a woman to procreate.
Right.
But when it comes to things like property, children, other kinds of stuff, the government grants, husband and wife, man, woman, whether they're, gay or not, grants these things. These are rights that are granted by society, and that's why government gets involved in it. And I think that's where we've kind of lost the idea. There are things in this world that are always going to be, no matter how much you want to say it's not. And you can bring up, Galileo and the earth going around the sun versus the sun coming around the earth. The Catholic Church can say as much as it wants that, the sun goes around the earth, but the reality is it wasn't true.
Recently, he just put a post on Facebook, or somebody put a post, and I think he tagged me in it about cocaine being found in one of the cars that is owned by the Vatican.
Oh, that wasn't me.
That
was Eva. Was that you?
No. I don't.
She's still on the phone.
You're still on the phone? Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you had left. And
She's still chilling.
I just believe that this is all a ploy. All this shit is a ploy to divide us, conquer and divide.
Paradigms.
Who gives it? You know what? I was born and raised in the Catholic cult. I don't believe in organized. I don't believe in organized religions. In fact, I detest them. But I do love the Lord.
yes.
Amen.
Yes,
I
amen.
agree.
I agree.
I agree with that, and that's where a lot of people get lost.
They do. They get lost.
They do. Who the heck wants? Well, I'll tell you this short little story because not only born and raised in the Catholic cult, I had to suffer through the Catholic school too, and we have to go to confession weekly, and if I did not sin, I would actually go into that confessional, and out of guilt for not sinning, I would lie to the priest.
And it has to be forgiven for your lies.
That was a sin right there.
Is that horrible? But
It is.
That's
It
comedy.
is. Yeah.
Having a child go through that and have that anxiety and panic because the priest is going to call you a liar if you didn't sin. So you have to lie.
Yeah.
That is kind of funny. And
It is.
where are you located right now, Eva?
I'm in California.
Oh, you're in California? So how'd you like Vegas, Sin City?
It's just too hot. I didn't like living there. I lived there for a short period of time.
Okay, and then previously you were in Colorado, is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. How do you feel about Colorado? You know, Colorado. I admire Colorado. You know, not only because of the legalization of recreational marijuana, but also they give licenses to illegal immigrants. I think California is poised to do that January 2015.
Boo.
But yeah, I agree with you on how you're saying about the conquer and divide, because that's what I feel it is. I feel like that's what Ferguson was. It was white and black. It was the Israel-Palestine. It was Jews and Muslims. You know, it's just the media constantly fuels this. And like, I know I've put certain posts and people get very offended, and they've even blocked me or deleted me. But you know, unfriend, yeah. But whatever, you know, to each their own. But at the end of the day, I'm for, you know, the humanity.
Right.
You know, and it just feels
humanity.
like there's always black, white, Mexican, this, that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, oh my gosh, just call us humans, just call us men, call us women. Yeah. What do you think has to be done in order to really change this, to shake up the youth and get them interested?
Oh, for one thing, shut off all TV.
Yes.
I agree. Can we get some clapping?
Outlawed. I have not watched TV for 8 years.
Wow. So you must save a lot of money on your bill.
I'm 4 years clean.
You know, if
4
I'm
years
over, yeah, I'm clean. I just got out of rehab, man. But I'll glance at TV if I'm over at a friend's house and they're watching it. But it's the price they have to pay. If I'm over there, I'll bitch and complain about everything and anything they're watching.
That's so awesome, because you're putting the seed in their brain of like, what are you really doing? Do you realize like these commercials, these things are all made to manipulate you in certain ways to buy their product? They don't give a rat's ass about you, even though they say they can help you lose weight or they can help you live longer or this is healthy to eat. It's all a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
Nope.
It is. You're absolutely right. It is a bunch of bullshit.
So here's something that I've always found kind of interesting in that, we don't really want to outlaw television, and television is a great, technology. But just like we were talking earlier about the Indians receiving payment for the natural resources, so Americans own the airwaves. Yeah, we do. We own the airwaves that Channel 4 and 7 and all these companies, broadcast off of. When are they going to start paying us for it? There's 300 million people. We should get, everybody should get 1/300 millionth of their profit.
Wow.
Because those are our airwaves. When do we start getting the, and then that will,
right.
We don't want to outlaw television, but then they might start thinking, well, maybe television isn't all about money.
True that.
That's interesting.
That's kind of the idea behind taxes, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think television is losing its popularity because of the internet. Like I can watch whatever I want when I want to watch it on my phone. At my house, I don't watch television. I think it's a waste of time. I really, really feel like it doesn't need to be outlawed, but it needs to be reshaped. We got to go back to the I Love Lucy's, the Sesame Streets. We have to start bringing back in the happiness instead of the gore and the like filth and the hidden jokes. These Big Bang Theory bullshit, nothing but side jokes of perverted behavior, and I don't think it's good for people to be watching. I mean, if you're an adult, you paying for cable because you want to see this specific stuff, go ahead. But if it's on national television for little kids, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It is. And then you have, in a lot of shows, you're allowed to say bitch, use the word bitch, and say the Lord's name in vain, but you can't use the word bastard. That I've observed that.
Double standards.
And it's total double standard. How about, I know that where Lou resides, I don't know where everybody else resides, but in California, you have the trash service. You have a can strictly for trash, you have a can for recyclables, and you have
the waste.
a can for your lawn clippings and stuff.
You got work today? Hey. Sorry to cut you off, but Mike's got to go to work right now, so we're gonna have to cut the show down to an end.
Already?
It's been an hour, yeah.
Okay.
But thanks
Great show, guys. Thank you all.
Thank
nice
you.
to meet you.
And call
It
back
was
next
nice having
time.
you.
We'll be back in next week, so you're always welcome to call and let us know what you feel.
Okay, very cool. Thanks, guys.
All
Have
right.
a great day.
You do the same.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
On a last note, James, would you like to leave the show with some inspiring words of what we should do as American people with the Constitution, or however you specifically feel?
Well, I could leave the show with the words of someone that's very important to me, and that's Einstein, Albert Einstein.
yeah.
And he said that the intuitive mind is the gift, the rational mind is the servant, and we have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And
Wow.
I think if we think
deep.
about what we know and what we don't know, we should all try and know more.
Definitely, because the more you
I
know,
like that.
the less you realize. I mean, the only thing I know is that I know nothing. I've learned so much about this planet. I start to realize I am on a ball that's floating in outer space.
Exactly. Around a fireball.
Yeah, like that is mind-boggling. Like, how can I put that together and explain to people we really don't know what we're doing here? It's really just our belief and our drive of what we want to do in our lives. To keep strong, you have to have some sort of faith,
James looks really relaxed, man.
He's just chilling. Yeah. So thanks for coming in, James.
Yeah, definitely.
I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
coming
Thank
What
you,
a
thank
fun
you for
show.
having me. I really enjoyed it.
You're always welcome back. We'll do it again next month, or a couple of months. We'll plan out something else. But it's been a great show. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we are going to be out like that. So let me just drop a song real quick, and have a good day.
Yeah.
Born free as the wind
Peace.
blows, as free
Peace.
as the grass grows.
And that's a wrap.
Nice.